What's happening in the skies over Tel Aviv every night is a numbers game, a deadly serious one. The number of missiles that Iran is sending this way has been shrinking with each salvo, improving the chances of success for Israel's extensive interceptor system. The Iranians predicted that this barrage would be a surprise the world will remember for centuries, but given there were no casualties and little damage, Israel has forgotten about it already. What history will record is the ease with which Israeli warplanes are operating over Iran. At least 50 jets were sent that way overnight. One of their targets was a centrifuge production site in the capital, Tehran. The Israelis also attacked everything they could to do with the launch of missiles. The IDF says strikes like these are the reason the ballistic barrages being fired at Israel are getting smaller. Faced with this and the possibility of the Americans joining in, the Ayatollah remains defiant. The Iranian nation will not surrender to anyone aiming to impose anything on it, he said. As for American intentions, the president is keeping the world guessing.
You don't know. I may do it, I may not do it. I mean, nobody knows what I'm going to do. I can tell you this, that Iran's got a lot of trouble, and they want to negotiate. And I said, why didn't you negotiate with me before? All this death and destruction.
Many Tehranis have now heeded Mr. Trump's advice to flee the city. And despite the regime's attempts to rally the people, there are divisions, at least online.
There is a huge fight between Iranians on social media, whether they are against the regime here or with it. And so many people think that even they are against the regime, they have to support it because of the situation.
Here in Tel Aviv, the first plane load of Israelis stranded abroad by the war landed at an otherwise deserted Ben Gurion airport today. Good morning, Captain. How are you feeling? It is good to bring back the passengers safely back home, he replied. They've returned to a country very different from the one they left. John Irvine, ITV News, Tel Aviv.
Well, let's get more from our US correspondent Dan Rivers and our international editor Emma Murphy. To Dan first, though, in Washington. Dan, President Trump has a dilemma here with serious consequences for him and the wider world, whatever he chooses to do.
Absolutely, and I think what's happening at the moment is the US is putting into place all of the key assets that would enable them to go ahead with this should they decide to do so. So we've been told today another US Air Force carrier is heading broadly into the region. That's the USS Ford. Now that is a pre-planned deployment, we're told, towards Europe, but could very easily be diverted to the Middle East to join the two others that are already there. We're also told that fighter jets have been sent as well. Now they probably wouldn't be used in a direct attack on Iran, but they may be used to escort the B-2 bombers that would be needed to deliver these bunker-busting bombs to penetrate Fordow, which is where the main enrichment site is. But today, Donald Trump, the president, was still sort of hedging his bets in a way, saying it might be several days before any action is taken, if it is at all.
The next week is going to be very big, maybe less than a week, maybe less. But is there anybody here that said it would be okay to have a hostile, very, zealots really, but to have a hostile country have a nuclear weapon?
And he also said that he was losing patience with the Iranians, but definitely gives the idea that he has not closed the door completely on negotiations. But if he did go ahead with this attack, it would fly in the face of US public opinion at the moment. There is a clear majority, more than 60% of Americans would oppose any kind of action against Iran, and a clear majority even of his own supporters would oppose the US getting embroiled in another Middle Eastern war.
All right, Dan, thank you. Let's talk to Emma now, who is close to Iraq's border with Iran in the north of the country. Emma, where does this leave Iran and the wider region?
Well, it leaves everyone in a sense of jeopardy, really, and you only have to hear the comments from the UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres just in the last few minutes, where he said that he warned against any further military intervention for fear of the horrendously destabilising effect in the region and on peace and security around the world. And there is no doubt there is huge concern about that, probably felt nowhere more acutely than within the civilian population in Iran that's already seen hundreds killed and many, many more injured, as well as thousands on the move to try and find safety. Now, in terms of where we go from here, we know that there's been 14 Typhoon fighters sent by the UK to RF Akrotiri to bolster the whole force there. All this whilst the UK are hosting a Cobra meeting to discuss what they will do if they are asked to assist the US should the US make that final decision that they are going to take action against the Iranian nuclear sites. Of course, the B-2 bombers are actually based at Diego Garcia. It's a base that's shared with the UK, and it is likely the UK would have to give the go-ahead. So this is really dragging the British government very much into this. They have been talking about de-escalation, but at some point they might have to make an absolutely critical decision as to whether or not they get directly involved with the United States.
All right, Emma in Iraq, Dan in Washington. Thank you both.